Remember when a TV show could make car crashes seem fun and harmless? When the heroes were rule breakers, the cops acted like clowns, and the message of the story was pretty much just to drive faster. Welcome to the Dukes of Hazzard, a show that didn't just ignore logic, it jumped right over it, flew through the air, and somehow made us love every second of it. Bo and Luke, played by John Schneider and Tom Wopat, were two good old boys from Georgia on probation, always running from the law for crimes they weren't even doing anymore. They lived with Uncle Jesse, the wise and honest leader of the family, and their cousin Daisy, whose short outfits caused more traffic trouble than their famous car, the General Lee. It wasn't fancy TV. It was full of slow-motion endings, flying cars, and people wearing denim from head to toe. But for 6 years, Friday nights meant one thing: a bright orange Dodge Charger, super short shorts, cousins who refused to use car doors, Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, who couldn't even catch a cold, and Boss Hogg, who ran every sneaky scam within 5 miles, all while sweating through his white three-piece suit. Today, we're counting down 15 strange facts you never knew about the Dukes of Hazzard. But before we jump in, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Now, let's start the countdown with number 1. Uncle Jesse was rich. On the show, Uncle Jesse was a country moonshiner who always looked like he was one traffic ticket away from losing the family farm. He wore overalls, gave out wise country advice, and acted like a $20 bill was a big deal. But off-screen, Denver Pyle, the actor who played him, was actually wealthy, and not because of moonshine. He made his money by outsmarting real oil tycoons. Before the Dukes of Hazzard, Pyle was already a well-known face on TV, famous for many roles in the 1960s and 70s, including his fan-favorite role as Briscoe Darling on The Andy Griffith Show.
I'm going over you.
After his time in Mayberry, Pyle began buying old oil wells that most investors had already given up on. Back then, oil sold for only $2.15 a barrel, and people thought he was throwing his money away. But then came the 1973 oil crisis. Oil prices shot up, and new drilling technology made it possible to bring those old wells back to life. Suddenly, the land everyone thought was worthless started bringing in huge profits.
In the Dallas area today, dealers raised prices to more than 40 cents a gallon.
By 1981, Pyle had made more money from oil investments than from his 30 years in Hollywood. Still, he kept acting. As he once said, "Acting provides the cash flow I need for oil speculation. And besides that, I like acting. It's fun." So while Uncle Jesse was out in the fields fixing fences, Denver Pyle was using his TV paychecks to fund his next oil deal. After the Dukes of Hazzard ended in 1985, Pyle kept working, mostly in guest roles on TV shows and movies. He played Briscoe Darling again in Return to Mayberry, appeared on Murder, She Wrote and Dallas, and even played a riverboat gambler in the 1994 movie Maverick. His final role was as Uncle Jesse one last time in the 1997 Dukes of Hazzard reunion movie, filmed just before his passing later that year. Off-screen, he kept investing in oil and started Uncle Jesse's Fishing Tournament, a Texas charity event that raised millions of dollars for children's programs. So yeah, the beard might have looked like country wisdom, but his bank account said, "I could buy this whole county and still have change left for a tractor." Number 2, John Schneider lied his way into the show. John Schneider might have played a good old country boy from Georgia on TV, but in real life, he was an 18-year-old kid from Mount Kisco, New York, about as far from the southern backwoods as you can get without needing a passport. So when he heard about the audition for Bo Duke, he did what any clever teenager with no real southern background would do. He made up a story and showed up dressed for the part.
Hey, Roscoe, I got an idea.
What?
If you write some music to that, Luke and I'll sing it for you.
He borrowed a beat-up pickup truck, didn't shave for a few days, and put on what he called a funky hat. Then he walked into the audition carrying a beer and said he was from Snailville, Georgia, which, by the way, isn't even a real place. He even faked a southern accent so strong that the producers probably asked him where to find the best barbecue nearby. And it worked. The funniest part? He didn't even know how to drive the General Lee when he got the job. He had to learn after he was cast.
Well, I guess we only got one choice.
Go for it.
Oh yeah, an 18-year-old kid from a New York suburb managed to talk his way into one of the most famous Southern roles in TV history, and he pulled it off for 7 seasons. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is.
Number 3. The Dukes started in Georgia, then Hollywood took over. In November of 1978, filming began for the Dukes of Hazzard across real towns in Georgia: Oxford, Loganville, Social Circle, Conyers, Covington, and Atlanta. Not Snailville, of course. The show had real back roads, real Southern charm, and real humidity that probably ruined half the camera gear. And here's something you might not have noticed. Those first 5 episodes had a totally different feel. The tone was rougher, the jokes were more grown-up, and the language was a bit edgier. It was the Dukes of Hazzard before the network came in and cleaned it up for family TV.
Once Warner Brothers saw the final cut and realized they might have a big hit, they made a classic Hollywood move. They decided to scale up and move everything to California. Production switched to the Warner Brothers studios in Burbank and Disney's Golden Oak Ranch in Newhall. This made things much easier to manage and gave them the room to build a huge car workshop, since they already knew they'd be sending Dodge Chargers flying through the air and wrecking dozens of them along the way.
So if those early episodes feel more raw and real, that's because they actually were. After episode 5, Hazzard County turned into whatever part of California the crew could dress up with a few hay bales and a friendly, "Y'all come back now, you hear?"
Stop him!
And speaking of real Georgia landmarks, the Boar's Nest is still standing in Covington. But these days, it's not a bar. It's now the Deliverance Christian Tabernacle. Yep, the same place where Daisy used to serve beer and the Duke boys got into bar fights is now where people come together to pray. That's not just ironic. That's basically a sermon waiting to happen, and I'm sure it has.
Number 4. The General Lee had no working doors. On purpose. Ever wonder why Bo and Luke always climbed through the windows of the General Lee like they were running late for dinner? Well, it's because on the show, the car's doors were welded shut, just like a real stock car. In the story, the General Lee was built for speed, modeled after NASCAR race cars, where welded doors were used for safety. And since the show was sending Dodge Chargers flying off ramps in almost every other scene, welded doors made sense, even if it was more about looking cool than actual physics.
But here's the behind-the-scenes twist. There were actually hundreds of General Lees, and not all of them had welded doors. Only a few, usually the main cars used for close-up shots and certain stunt scenes, were completely sealed. The rest were left with working doors for practical reasons, like letting the crew members who moved the cars get in and out without hurting themselves.
Watch this.
Still, climbing through the window was the rule when the cameras were rolling. Opening a door on the General Lee would have been like seeing a cowboy wearing flip-flops. It just wouldn't look right. But if you want to spot a mistake, check out Season 2, Episode 1, Days of Shine and Roses, where Luke actually slams a door shut in a quick blink-and-you'll-miss-it moment. Accidental? Absolutely. But in Duke Floor, that was basically the equivalent of a Bigfoot sighting. Number 5. The cost of all those crashes might surprise you. Let's be honest, the Dukes of Hazzard was mostly an excuse to jump cars, blow things up, and occasionally squeeze in a storyline. The General Lee was launched off ramps, over creeks, through barns, across bridges, and sometimes into what looked like another dimension. And someone actually had to be in that car every time it happened. A real person with real bones and real insurance bills. Stunt performers got hurt a lot. Cars flipped when they weren't supposed to, jumps went completely sideways, roll cages broke, and harnesses snapped. And unlike today's movies with CGI and safety nets, none of it was fake.
It was just some poor guy named Rusty wearing a helmet and holding on to whatever lucky charm he could fit in the glove box. And it wasn't only the stunt team either.
That's how you're supposed to do it, Clem.
In 1980, a camera assistant named Rodney Mitchell was tragically killed when his camera truck lost control in a patch of mud during filming. It's a sad reminder that behind all the yee-haws and slow-motion crashes, real people were putting themselves in danger to create those unforgettable moments we still love today. The show went through stunt drivers faster than it went through Dodge Chargers, and that's really saying something. Honestly, the real unsung heroes might have been the chiropractors and physical therapists around Los Angeles. They were probably booked solid for 7 years straight. Number 6. The General Lee got more fan mail than the cast. You might have loved Bo and Luke, or maybe you had a crush on Daisy like I did. But chances are, if you wrote a fan letter, it was probably to the car. At the height of the show's popularity, the Dukes of Hazzard was getting around 60,000 letters every month, and more than half of them were addressed to the General Lee. Yep, a Dodge Charger was getting more love from fans than the actual people on the show.
One thing them old boys love better than a race on the track. It's a chase on the road.
Kids wanted to know the engine details. Adults wanted to know where they could buy one. And some fans just wrote sweet letters telling the General how awesome it looked flying through a billboard in slow motion. It wasn't just a car. It was a star. And if you asked Warner Brothers, it was also a huge merchandising gold mine. So yes, the Dukes of Hazzard had some great actors, but the real breakout star was a bright orange car with a horn that played Dixie and never missed its landing. Number 7. The survivors are worth more than most people's houses. Here's a financial plot twist that might make you rethink every choice you've ever made. The Dukes of Hazzard went through more than 300 Dodge Chargers during filming, turning classic muscle cars into bright orange flying machines for our entertainment. But today, only about 17 to 20 real screen-used General Lees are known to still exist. And those survivors? They're worth more than most people's retirement savings. We're talking upwards of $250,000 for a real on-screen General Lee, depending on its condition and how many times it actually went airborne. That's not just expensive. That's, I could buy a house in the Midwest, or I could own this car that once jumped over a barn expensive. And here's the kicker. In 2008, John Schneider sold one of his replica General Lees for $230,000. Not a real on-screen car, just a really nice copy owned by Bo himself. But it gets even better. In 2012, golfer Bubba Watson bought Lee 1, the very first General Lee used in the pilot episode, for $110,000. It's come a long way from flying over barns to sitting safely in a climate-controlled garage. But that's what happens when a TV car meets PGA money. So yeah, that orange blur you watched every Friday night is now worth more than your first house, your college degree, and probably the car you drive right now. The show didn't just wreck cars, it accidentally created some of the most valuable TV collectibles in the world. All right, we're about halfway through the countdown, so since you're still here, go ahead and tap like and subscribe. You know you're enjoying this ride through Hazzard County. All right, now back to the video. Number 8. Buzz Hogg was a genius. Sorrel Book was what you'd call a real-life genius. He was valedictorian of his high school class, started college at Columbia when he was just 16, and graduated by 19, before most people even choose a major. Then he went on to Yale for his Master of Fine Arts, served as a counterintelligence officer during the Korean War, and spoke 6 languages: English, French, Japanese, Spanish, Russian, and Italian. Oh, and he also dabbled in about half a dozen more, including Arabic, Mandarin, and Swedish, because apparently being a Yale-trained war veteran who already spoke 6 languages wasn't impressive enough. Before the Dukes of Hazzard, Book had already built an incredible career with roles on Broadway, an Emmy nomination, and standout parts on shows like MASH, Columbo, and All in the Family. But to most of America, he'll always be Boss Hogg, the greedy, white-suited cartoon version of small-town political corruption. Here's a twist. Book was actually only 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed about 185 pounds during filming. To create Boss Hogg's look, he wore extra padding that made his waist a full 5 feet around. And that thick, syrupy Southern accent he used, he based it on real U.S. Senators Sam Ervin and Strom Thurmond. Yep, the man actually did research to perfect Boss Hogg.
Good news? You mean that my sworn enemy, Cassius Claiborne, he's got his hands on the Duke boys? Yes, oh, glory be.
So the next time you see him waddling through Hazzard County in that three-piece white suit, remember, that's a Yale-educated, multilingual intelligence officer wearing sofa cushions and turning Southern politics into comedy gold. After the Dukes of Hazzard ended in 1985, Sorrel Book didn't fade away. He just switched gears. He became a busy voice actor, lending his voice to everything from Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers to Captain Planet and Bonkers. He even guest conducted the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra, because of course he did. Book passed away in 1994 at the age of 64, but his legacy as both a classically trained actor and the most unforgettable county commissioner in TV history still lives on.
Number 9. The forgotten movie that gave us Hazzard County. Long before Bo and Luke were jumping over creeks in slow motion to the sound of banjos, the Dukes of Hazzard began as a little-known 1975 film called Moonrunners, written and directed by Guy Waldron, the same man who later created the show. The movie followed two cousins, Grady and Bobby Lee Hagg, played by James Mitchum and Keo Martin, as they ran moonshine for their Uncle Jesse, played by Arthur Honeycutt, in Shiloh County, Georgia. Sound familiar? It had all the ingredients: a hot-rodded 1955 Chevrolet named Traveler, a crooked sheriff named Roscoe Coltrane, played by Bruce Atkins, and plenty of Southern chaos.
You boys give Zebo just enough room to make it interesting.
It had car chases, outlaw drama, and a crooked local bootlegger named Jack Rainey, played by George Ellis. Oh, and Waylon Jennings served as the balladeer, just like he did later in the TV show. Even Ben Jones, who would go on to play Cooter on The Dukes of Hazzard, appears in a small role as a federal agent from Chicago. But Moonrunners wasn't exactly family-friendly. It was darker, rougher, and the characters actually faced real consequences. Uncle Jesse dies, there's an affair subplot, and yes, the cousins use explosive arrows to blow up a moonshine factory. When Waldron turned the idea into a TV show, he dialed everything way back. Less violence, more comedy, and those classic freeze-frame endings where nobody ever really got hurt. So yeah, The Dukes of Hazzard came from a movie, just with fewer consequences, more yeehaws, and law enforcement that looked like it belonged in a Saturday morning cartoon. Number 10. The theme song was a chart-topping country hit.
Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm.
I know you're already singing it because I am too. The Dukes of Hazzard theme song wasn't just catchy, it was a real hit. Written and performed by country legend Waylon Jennings, theme from the Dukes of Hazzard, Good Old Boys, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart in 1980 and even reached number 21 on the Hot 100, a true crossover success.
Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
The song gave the show major cultural credibility, especially across the South. And even decades later, it's still one of the most recognizable theme songs in TV history. But Good Old Boys didn't just fade away when the show ended. Since then, it's been covered and reimagined by country legends and even a few pop culture oddballs. Waylon Jennings' son, Shooter Jennings, has performed it live at Duke Fests, and John Schneider, Tom Wopat, and Catherine Bach even made a music video version for the Season 7 DVD release.
Straightening the curve and flattening the hills.
In the 2005 reboot movie, Willie Nelson, who played Uncle Jesse, sang the theme song himself. And in 2007's The Dukes of Hazzard: The Beginning, John Anderson gave it a rougher Southern rock sound. That's not even counting the wild versions by Travis Tritt, Lil White, and yes, even Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Just a good old boys, never meaning no harm.
Even people who couldn't tell you who Cooter is still know that song. And let's be honest, it still slaps.
Fighting the system like a true modern-day Robin Hood.
Number 11. The cast took one look and said, nope, You think a big screen reboot of The Dukes of Hazzard would have been the perfect chance to bring back the original cast for some fun cameos and a nostalgic Hollywood reunion. But nope, not even close. John Schneider, Tom Wopat, and Catherine Bach all took one look at the script and politely said no. And when we say politely, we mean they probably read 2 pages and ran out of the room. Ben Jones, better known as Cooter, took it even further. He called the movie sleazy, boycotted the premiere, and publicly said it had nothing to do with the heart or spirit of the original show. And this is coming from a guy who spent 7 seasons pretending to fix cars held together with duct tape and pure luck.
You didn't know? Luke, you said he was okay with it.
Look at the road, Bo. Look at the road.
When the very people who made the show iconic went out of their way to distance themselves from the reboot, turning down easy money and new publicity, that wasn't just a red flag. That was a giant signal flare visible from space. Somehow, the 2005 movie managed to take everything fun and lovable about the original and twist it into something that made the cast actually uncomfortable. That's a special kind of talent, just not the good kind.
Number 12. The contract dispute that nearly sank the show. At the absolute height of the Dukes of Hazzard's success, when the show ruled the ratings and was selling every kind of merchandise imaginable, John Schneider and Tom Wopat suddenly walked away. For years, rumors claimed they left to chase movie careers, and tabloids blamed it on ego. But the real reason was money, specifically merchandise money. Their faces were everywhere, on lunchboxes, toy cars, bed sheets, maybe even waffle irons, but they weren't getting a fair share of the profits. So Schneider and Wopat staged a walkout that any union would have been proud of. The network's response?
Bye, Felicia.
Enter the new cousins, Coy and Vance Duke, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer, with the same car, the same hair, and absolutely none of the charm.
Sam,
we're beginning to wonder if you'd ever get here.
If I'd have known we was going to get a welcome like this, we would have come back years ago. Ain't that right, Coy?
Shoot, we never would have left.
Ratings dropped fast. Fan mail turned into hate mail. And Coy and Vance, who were reportedly signed to multi-year contracts, only lasted 19 episodes in season 5. As soon as the lawsuit was settled, Bo and Luke came roaring back, and the replacements were wiped from the show like they never existed. No goodbye, no flashbacks, not even a quick mention. And to this day, most fans still couldn't tell you which one was Coy and which one was Vance. Honestly, that's probably for the best.
Number 13, The Animated Dukes. Same car, more shenanigans. The Dukes of Hazzard gave us moonshine-fueled back-road chases, crooked small-town leaders, and 2 country boys who somehow stayed out of jail by driving super fast and never really meaning to do anything wrong. It was total Southern-style chaos. So naturally, the cartoon version asked, what if we took all that and swapped it for a worldwide car race, sneaky tricks, and a raccoon named Smokey? In The Dukes, which came out in 1983, the Duke family joins a global car race to win prize money that will save their family farm from being taken away. Boss Hogg, Sheriff Roscoe, and Roscoe's dog Flash join the race too. Their plan is to cheat their way to victory, take the prize money, and steal the Duke family farm while they're at it. Side note, who even sponsored this world race, and where were all the other drivers? Anyway, moving on. Each episode starts with Uncle Jesse reading a letter to his pet raccoon, Smokey, telling him about their latest racing adventures. Because apparently, in the early 80s, people thought the best way to recap car chases was by talking to a small woodland animal. But if that idea wasn't crazy enough, here's the real twist. When the cartoon started, Bo and Luke were missing because of a contract disagreement. So the cartoon used their knockoff cousins, Coy and Vance, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer. Basically the backup band nobody asked to see. So, for one whole season, kids watched cartoon versions of Coy and Vance race around the world like they were the real stars of the show. Then, Tom Wopat and John Schneider made peace with CBS. After that, Coy and Vance suddenly vanished at the start of season 2, and Bo and Luke showed up again like nothing ever happened. No explanation, no goodbye, just a sudden swap.
All right, Roscoe, start moving over towards them.
What's that sneaky old boss hog up to now?
I better ease off on the gas a mite till we find out.
The animation was classic Hanna-Barbera.
You know, reused running motions, jumps that ignored gravity, and the General Lee's Dixie horn blasting in every country from France to Fiji, because subtlety wasn't really part of the Duke's toolkit. And if everything looked and sounded a little familiar, that's because it was the same studio that made Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones. They reused sound effects and background art you probably saw in 3 other shows that same morning.
Whatever boss is planned, if it didn't work out. Bye!
While the Dukes only ran for 20 episodes over 2 seasons, it gave you everything you'd expect from a Saturday morning cartoon. Slapstick action, wild disguises, cartoon-style logic, and Uncle Jesse's raccoon sidekick, who somehow made more sense than Coy and Vance. At least Smokey didn't get kicked out after just 1 season.
Number 14. The iconic driving move that only worked one way. Have you ever noticed something strange about the Duke's signature 2-wheel driving stunts? Watch closely. The General Lee almost always lifts up on the driver's side, while the passenger side wheels stay on the ground. The same trick happens with the sheriff's cars, too.
Well, that wasn't an accident. It was all because of one man, Buzz Bundy, a stunt car expert who did most of those crazy moves. Here's the twist. Buzz could only make the car lift on the driver's side. He tried doing it the other way, but he just couldn't. He compared it to being right or left-handed, except instead of riding, he was tilting a 3,000-pound car sideways while driving at high speed.
So whenever a script needed that stunt, the directors had 2 choices. Change it to match Buzz's handedness, or find someone else brave and crazy enough to do it the other way. Spoiler alert, they stuck with Buzz. His talent wasn't just rare, it was top-tier Hollywood. He was the go-to guy for 2-wheeled stunts across the industry, doing the same amazing tricks on Knight Rider, The Fall Guy, and countless movies. If you saw a car balancing on 2 wheels in the 80s, there's a good chance Buzz Bundy was behind the wheel. And compared to the equipment-assisted stunts in the 2005 Dukes movie, Buzz's work stands out. No rigs, no wires, just perfect driving and pure courage. Buzz Bundy passed away in 2020, but his legacy lives on in every 2-wheeled stunt that made our childhoods feel magical.
Number 15. Reunited, and it felt so good. Here's a bit of TV meta magic that you probably missed if you weren't paying close attention. In 2006, during the 5th season of Smallville, there's an episode called Exposed, where a Kansas senator named Jack Jennings shows up at the Kent farm. His car? A 1968 Dodge Charger RT. It's blue instead of orange, but it's definitely a General Lee in spirit.
You just could not resist, could you?
Here's the kicker. Senator Jack Jennings was played by Tom Wopat, a.k.a. Luke Duke. And Jonathan Kent? That was John Schneider, Bo Duke himself. So for one episode, both Duke boys were back on screen together with a Dodge Charger doing car stunts.
I guess it wouldn't be the first time I put my life in your hands.
Even Wapat's character was a tribute. Jack Jennings was clearly a nod to Waylon Jennings, the Duke's narrator and theme song singer. It was basically a secret Dukes of Hazzard reunion hidden inside a Smallville episode. And it was a fun little Easter egg that felt like catching up with old friends. So, there you have it. 15 facts that show the Dukes of Hazzard was just as wild, weird, and amazing off-screen as it was on-screen. Which of these facts surprised you? Which ones did you miss? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching, y'all. Come back now, you hear?